The dining room fell silent except for the soft gurgling sounds coming from 6-month-old Harmony as she sat in her high chair, her tiny fingers reaching for the colorful toys hanging above her. Denise Thompson watched her daughter's face light up with pure joy, those beautiful almond-shaped eyes sparkling with wonder. Down syndrome hadn't dimmed Harmony's light. If anything, it made her shine brighter. "I still can't believe you're keeping that baby," Aunt Nadine said, cutting into her pot roast with unnecessary force. "I mean, Denise, you're in nursing school. You have your whole life ahead of you." Denise's fork froze halfway to her mouth. Around the table, her extended family continued eating as if Nadine hadn't just delivered a devastating blow. Her mother Gloria shifted uncomfortably but said nothing. Cousin Jasmine was too busy taking selfies with her food to notice the tension. "What do you mean, keeping her?" Denise asked quietly, though her heart was already pounding. Uncle Robert cleared his throat. "What Nadine's trying to say is that there are options. Facilities. Places where children like that can get proper care." "Children like what?" Denise's voice cracked. "You know what we mean." Jasmine finally looked up from her phone. "That baby's never gonna be normal. She's gonna hold you back your whole life. You're pretty, you're smart, you could find a good man, have normal kids." The words hit Denise like physical blows. She looked around the table, this same dining room where she'd celebrated birthdays, graduations, and family milestones. These people who claimed to love her were talking about her daughter like she was disposable. "She has a name," Denise whispered. "Her name is Harmony." Nadine rolled her eyes. "That's another thing. Harmony? Really? You gave her some made-up hippie name like she's gonna grow up to be something special." "She is special," Denise said louder this time. "Special needs, maybe," Robert chuckled and Jasmine snorted with laughter. Gloria finally spoke up. "Y'all need to stop this right now." But Nadine wasn't finished. "Gloria, you know I'm right. Look at your daughter. She's exhausted, she's falling behind in school, and for what? That baby's never gonna walk down any aisle, never gonna give you grandchildren, never gonna take care of you when you're old. She's just gonna be a burden until the day she dies." Harmony started fussing as if she could sense the tension in the room. Denise reached over to comfort her daughter, but Nadine kept talking. "And don't even get me started on the medical bills. That thing's gonna bleed you dry." "Don't call her that thing," Denise said through gritted teeth. "What else should I call it? Let's be real here." "Enough." Gloria slammed her hand on the table, making the glasses jump. "That's my grandbaby you're talking about." Nadine leaned back in her chair, crossing her arms. "Fine. But don't come crying to us when your life falls apart. Some of us actually care about this family's reputation." The room went quiet again. Denise picked up Harmony, holding her close as tears started falling. Her baby reached up and touched her face, those precious little fingers wiping away her mother's tears. "You know what?" Denise stood up slowly, her voice shaking with emotion. "You're all sitting here talking about my daughter like she's worthless, like she's some kind of mistake. But let me tell you something." She reached into her purse and pulled out a thick manila envelope, placing it on the table with a loud thud. "What's that?" Robert asked. Denise's voice grew stronger. "This is something I wasn't gonna share until later, but I think y'all need to see it right now." She opened the envelope and pulled out several official-looking documents. The first one had a letterhead that made everyone lean forward to read it. "This," she said, holding up the first paper, "is a letter from Harvard Medical School." The room went dead silent. "They want to study Harmony. Turns out, children with Down syndrome are showing remarkable capabilities that doctors never understood before. And my daughter, my burden, has been selected for a groundbreaking research program." She pulled out another document. "And this is from the National Institutes of Health. They're offering her a full scholarship fund for any educational path she chooses to pursue when she's older." Jasmine's mouth fell open. Robert's fork clattered to his plate. "But wait," Denise continued, her voice now steady and strong. "There's more." She pulled out the final document, and this one made her smile through her tears. "This is a contract from Children's Healthcare of Atlanta. They want to feature Harmony in their new campaign about the potential of every child. The payment?" She paused, looking around the table at their shocked faces. $500,000. The silence stretched on for what felt like an eternity. Harmony babbled happily in her mother's arms, completely unaware that she had just become the most important person in the room. Nadine's face had gone completely white. Robert was staring at the documents like they might disappear. Jasmine had actually put her phone down. "So let me make this clear," Denise said, gathering up the papers and putting them back in the envelope. "My burden, just became worth more than any of y'all make in 5 years. My thing just got accepted into Harvard's research program. And my daughter with the made-up hippie name is about to change the world. She grabbed Harmony's diaper bag and headed toward the door. Where are you going? Gloria called after her. Denise turned back one last time, tears streaming down her face but her voice strong. I'm going home to my daughter. And I won't be coming back to any more family dinners until y'all learn to treat her with the respect she deserves. The door closed behind them with a soft click, leaving the family sitting in stunned silence around a table full of half-eaten food and shattered assumptions. Outside, Denise buckled Harmony into her car seat, kissing her soft forehead. Don't worry, baby girl, she whispered. Mama's gonna make sure you know how special you are even if they don't. As she drove away from her childhood home, Denise had no idea that this moment would be the beginning of the most difficult and most rewarding journey of her life. 3 days had passed since the disastrous family dinner, and Denise couldn't stop replaying her aunt's cruel words in her mind. She sat in the pediatrician's waiting room, Harmony sleeping peacefully in her car seat, while other parents stole glances at them. Some looks were curious, others were sympathetic, and a few made her stomach turn with their obvious pity. Harmony Thompson? A nurse called out and Denise gathered their things. Dr. Chen's office was warm and inviting, with colorful murals on the walls and soft lighting that made everything feel safe. Harmony gurgled happily as the doctor examined her, reaching for the stethoscope with her tiny fingers. She's developing beautifully, Dr. Chen said, making notes in Harmony's chart. Her muscle tone is improving, and her social responses are right on track. Right on track for what? Denise asked quietly. Dr. Chen looked up from her notes, studying Denise's face carefully. For any child. Denise, is everything okay? You seem troubled today. The kindness in the doctor's voice broke something inside Denise, and before she knew it, tears were streaming down her face. Doctor, can I ask you something? Of course. Am I ruining my life by keeping her? Dr. Chen set down her pen and pulled her chair closer. What makes you ask that? Denise told her about the dinner, about her family's reaction, about the cruel things they'd said. With each word, Dr. Chen's expression grew more serious. Denise, may I share something with you? She nodded. I've been working with children with Down syndrome for 15 years. In that time, I've seen these children become teachers, artists, business owners, athletes. I've watched them fall in love, get married, and yes, even become parents themselves. Dr. Chen picked up Harmony, who immediately reached for her glasses. But more than that, I've seen what they do for their families. The patience they teach, the unconditional love they give, the way they help everyone around them see what really matters in life. She handed Harmony back to Denise. Your family is scared because they don't understand. But that doesn't make them right. Sometimes I wonder if they have a point though, Denise admitted. I'm exhausted all the time. School is getting harder to manage. And the stairs when we go out. Can I tell you about another patient of mine? Dr. Chen asked. Her name is Sarah. She has Down syndrome and she's 23 now. Last month, she graduated from community college with honors. She works at a daycare center, and she just moved into her own apartment. Denise looked down at Harmony, trying to imagine her daughter all grown up. But here's the thing about Sarah, Dr. Chen continued. Her mother tells me that Sarah has taught their entire family more about love, perseverance, and joy than they ever thought possible. Sarah's younger brother is now studying special education because of his sister's influence. Her father volunteers with Special Olympics. Their whole family is stronger because of her. What about the medical bills? The extra care? There will be challenges, yes. But Denise, you're in nursing school. You're already learning to be a healer. You're going to understand Harmony's needs better than most parents ever could. Dr. Chen pulled out a pamphlet. There's a support group that meets here every Thursday evening. Parents of children with Down syndrome. I think you might find it helpful to talk to people who understand what you're going through. As they left the office, Denise felt a tiny spark of hope. Maybe she wasn't as alone as she thought. That evening, Denise sat at her kitchen table trying to study for her pharmacology exam, but her mind kept wandering. Harmony was in her bouncy seat nearby, batting at the colorful toys hanging overhead. Every time she made a happy sound, Denise's heart swelled. Her phone rang. It was her mother. Hey baby, Gloria's voice was soft. How are you doing? I'm okay, Mama. No, you're not. I can hear it in your voice. Gloria paused. I'm sorry about what happened at dinner. That was wrong. Why didn't you speak up sooner? Because. Gloria's voice cracked. Because part of me was scared too. Scared about what this means for you, for your future. But watching you with that baby, seeing how much you love her, I was wrong to stay quiet. Denise felt tears welling up again. Mama, I love her so much. She's perfect to me. I know, baby. And I'm sorry it took me this long to see that. They talked for another hour, and by the time they hung up, Denise felt like she had her mother back on her side. Later that night, as she was giving Harmony her bottle, her phone buzzed with a text from Carmen, her study partner from nursing school. Hey girl, missed you in study group today. Everything okay? Denise hesitated, then typed back, family drama. Long story. Want to talk about it? I'm free tomorrow after clinicals. For the first time in days, Denise smiled. Maybe she had more support than she realized. She looked down at Harmony, who was gazing up at her with those beautiful, trusting eyes. You know what, baby girl? We're gonna be just fine. Better than fine. Harmony's little mouth curved into what could almost be called a smile, and Denise's heart felt full again. But neither of them knew that across town, Aunt Nadine was making phone calls that would change everything. Thursday evening found Denise sitting in a circle of folding chairs in the basement meeting room of Children's Healthcare of Atlanta. She'd almost chickened out 3 times, but Carmen had offered to watch Harmony, and Dr. Chin had personally called to encourage her to come. Welcome everyone, said a woman with graying hair and kind eyes. For newcomers, I'm Patricia, and my son David is 26 and has Down syndrome. He's currently working as a bagger at Kroger and just moved into a group home. Denise looked around the circle. There were about 15 people, parents of all ages, some with their children present. A toddler with Down syndrome was playing quietly with blocks in the corner while his father participated in the discussion. Tonight, I'd like us to talk about family dynamics, Patricia continued. How has having a child with Down syndrome affected your relationships with extended family? Hands shot up around the circle, and Denise listened as story after story unfolded. Tales of grandparents who came around eventually, siblings who struggled with embarrassment, friends who disappeared. But also stories of unexpected champions, deeper family bonds, and communities that rallied around them. When it was her turn to speak, Denise's voice shook as she told them about the dinner. My aunt said my daughter would never amount to anything, that she'd be a burden her whole life. And part of me. She paused, fighting back tears. Part of me wondered if she was right. A woman across the circle named Linda spoke up. My daughter Emma is 15 now. When she was born, my mother-in-law suggested we put her in an institution. Last week, Emma made honor roll at her inclusive high school program. My son teaches me something new every day, added another father. His patience, his joy, I wish I had half his emotional intelligence. As the meeting went on, Denise felt something lifting from her chest. These weren't bitter, broken people drowning in medical bills and dashed dreams. They were parents who'd found joy and purpose in unexpected places. After the meeting, Patricia approached her. How are you doing really? Better than I was this morning, Denise admitted. Good. Can I give you some advice? Denise nodded. Don't waste time trying to change people who aren't ready to learn. Focus your energy on building a circle of people who see your daughter's worth from day one. What if that circle is really small? Patricia smiled. Quality over quantity, honey. Always. When Denise got home, Carmen was on the floor playing with Harmony, who was giggling and reaching for colorful blocks. She's been happy the whole time, Carmen reported. And I have to tell you, watching her tonight, she's going to be something special, Denise. You really think so? I know so. The way she focuses, the way she responds to different sounds and textures. There's something really bright about this little girl. They were interrupted by a knock at the door. Denise peered through the peephole and saw Mrs. Patterson, her elderly neighbor from down the hall. Mrs. Patterson? Is everything okay? The 70-year-old woman was holding a casserole dish and smiling. I brought you some dinner. I heard that baby crying earlier and thought you might need a hand. Oh, that's so kind, but she wasn't crying from hunger or anything. She just gets fussy sometimes when... Honey, Mrs. Patterson interrupted gently, I raised 5 children and helped raise 12 grandchildren. I know the difference between a hungry cry and a tired cry. But I also know that new mothers need to eat. She handed Denise the dish and peered over at Harmony, who was still playing with Carmen on the floor. What a beautiful baby, Mrs. Patterson said softly. Look at those eyes. She's going to be a heartbreaker. She has Down syndrome, Denise said quietly, watching for Mrs. Patterson's reaction. The older woman's face didn't change except to grow more tender. I know, baby. I've been watching you two come and go for months. That child is lucky to have a mama who loves her so fiercely. You don't think, You don't think I'm making a mistake? Mrs. Patterson stepped into the apartment and sat down heavily on the couch. Can I tell you about my grandson Marcus? Denise nodded, settling down beside her. Marcus was born with cerebral palsy 30 years ago. Doctors told my daughter he'd never walk, never talk, never amount to much. My daughter's husband left. Half the family said she should put him in a home. What happened? That boy graduated high school, went to community college, and now he works for the city planning department. He's married to a wonderful woman, and they just bought their first house. Mrs. Patterson reached over and touched Denise's hand. But more than that, he taught our whole family about perseverance, about seeing ability instead of disability, about what love really means. I just want to do right by her. Honey, love is doing right by her. And anyone who can't see that isn't worth your worry. After Mrs. Patterson left, Carmen helped Denise put Harmony down for the night. You know what I noticed tonight? Carmen said as they watched Harmony drift off to sleep. What? The way you light up when you talk about her. I've never seen you as happy as you are when you're being her mama. Denise felt tears starting again, but this time they were different. Lighter. You really think we're going to be okay? I think you're going to be more than okay. I think you two are going to change the world. As Carmen gathered her things to leave, she paused at the door. By the way, I talked to Professor Davis today about your situation. She wants to meet with you tomorrow. About what? Just trust me on this one, okay? After Carmen left, Denise sat in the quiet apartment, listening to Harmony's soft breathing through the baby monitor. For the first time since the disaster at Sunday dinner, she felt something that felt almost like peace. She pulled out her phone and scrolled through her contacts until she found her mother's number. Mama? I know it's late, but I wanted to tell you about this support group I went to. As she told her mother about the meeting, about Mrs. Patterson, about the parents who'd faced the same fears and come out stronger, she could hear Gloria crying softly on the other end. I'm proud of you, baby, Gloria finally said. And I want you to know, I'm ready to learn. I want to be the grandmother Harmony deserves. Really? Really? Can we start over? Denise looked toward Harmony's room, thinking about all the people who were starting to gather around them. Maybe Patricia was right. Maybe it wasn't about having a big circle. Maybe it was about having the right circle. Yeah, Mama. We can start over. But as they talked, neither of them knew that Aunt Nadine had already set wheels in motion that would test everything Denise had learned about fighting for her daughter. Friday morning started like any other, with Harmony's cheerful babbling waking Denise at dawn. As she changed her daughter's diaper and prepared her morning bottle, Denise felt more optimistic than she had in weeks. The support group had given her hope, and her mother's call had healed something deep inside her chest. She was just strapping Harmony into her car seat to head to campus when there was a sharp knock at her door. Through the peephole, she saw a woman in a dark suit carrying a briefcase. Miss Thompson? I'm Susan Martinez from Child Protective Services. I need to speak with you about a report we received. Denise's blood turned to ice. A report about what? May I come in? With shaking hands, Denise opened the door and invited the social worker inside. Ms. Martinez looked around the small but clean apartment, taking notes on her clipboard. Miss Thompson, we received a call expressing concern about your ability to care for your infant daughter given her special needs and your current life circumstances. What kind of concerns? The caller indicated that you're a single mother attending nursing school full-time, living in inadequate housing, and may not be providing appropriate medical care for a child with Down syndrome. Denise felt the room spinning. That's not true. I take her to every appointment. She's up to date on all her shots. Her pediatrician says she's developing perfectly. I'm sure you're doing your best, Ms. Martinez said, but her tone was skeptical. However, the caller also expressed concern about your emotional stability. They mentioned a recent family gathering where you became agitated and made disturbing claims about your daughter. Disturbing claims? Something about Harvard and medical research? The pieces fell into place with sickening clarity. Nadine. Her own aunt had called Child Protective Services. Those weren't claims, Denise said, her voice stronger now. Those were facts. She went to her bedroom and retrieved the manila envelope, pulling out the official documents. Ms. Martinez examined them carefully, her expression shifting from skepticism to surprise. These appear to be legitimate, she said slowly. They are legitimate. My daughter has been selected for a groundbreaking research program. She's going to help doctors better understand the capabilities of children with Down syndrome. Ms. Martinez made more notes. I still need to complete my assessment. Can you show me where the baby sleeps? For the next hour, Denise walked the social worker through every aspect of Harmony's care. The spotless nursery, the carefully organized medical supplies, the detailed charts tracking her development. Ms. Martinez examined everything with professional thoroughness. When they returned to the living room, Harmony was starting to fuss in her car seat. Denise unbuckled her and held her close, immediately calming her down. "She knows your voice," Ms. Martinez observed. "We're together all the time. She comes to campus with me when I don't have clinical rotations. That must be challenging." "It is. But my professors are supportive, and I have help from friends and my mother." Ms. Martinez closed her notebook. "Miss Thompson, I'm going to be honest with you. When I got this call, I was expecting to find a situation that might require immediate intervention. What I found instead is a young mother who's clearly devoted to her child's welfare." Denise felt her knees go weak with relief. "However," Ms. Martinez continued, "there will be a formal investigation. I'll need to interview your mother, your pediatrician, and your professors. We'll also need to do a home study to ensure this living situation is appropriate long-term." "How long will this take?" "Typically 30 to 60 days. In the meantime, you'll need to make sure Harmony is never left alone with anyone who isn't on an approved list of caregivers." After Ms. Martinez left, Denise sat on her couch holding Harmony, trying not to shake. Her phone rang. It was Carmen. "Hey, are you coming to lab today?" "Carmen, something terrible has happened." 20 minutes later, Carmen was at her door with coffee and a fierce expression. "They called CPS on you? Are you kidding me right now?" "My own family, Carmen. My own aunt." Carmen paced around the small living room like a caged animal. "This is insane. You're one of the best mothers I know. You're in the top of our nursing class. You literally carry research documents around because your baby is so remarkable that Harvard wants to study her. But what if they take her away?" "They're not going to take her away," Carmen said firmly. "But we need to be smart about this. We need to document everything." She pulled out her phone and started typing. "First, we're going to call Professor Davis. Then we're calling Dr. Chen. Then we're getting character references from everyone who knows you." "Carmen, you don't have to." "Yes, I do. You're my friend and Harmony is like my niece. We're going to fight this." An hour later, Professor Angela Davis was sitting in Denise's living room, her usually stern expression softened by obvious concern. "Denise, in 20 years of teaching nursing students, I've never seen anyone manage the demands of this program while caring for a special needs infant the way you have. Your clinical instructors rave about your skills, your compassion, and your professionalism. But what if that's not enough?" Professor Davis pulled out her own phone. "I'm calling the dean. We're going to get you every letter of recommendation, every character reference, every piece of documentation you need. The university stands behind you 100%. As word spread through Denise's social network, the support poured in. Mrs. Patterson offered to testify about what a wonderful mother she was. The parents from the support group rallied around her. Dr. Chen immediately faxed over copies of all of Harmony's medical records showing excellent care. That evening, Gloria arrived with grocery bags and a determined expression. "I'm staying here until this is resolved," she announced. "Mama, you don't need to." "Yes, I do. I should have spoken up at that dinner. I should have defended you and my grandbaby from the start." Gloria set down the groceries and pulled Denise into a fierce hug. "I won't make that mistake again." As the 3 generations of Thompson women sat together that night, Gloria helping Denise study while Harmony played on her blanket, Denise felt something she hadn't expected: strength. "You know what, Mama?" "What, baby?" "I think we're going to win this." Gloria smiled and kissed Harmony's forehead. "I know we are." But none of them could have predicted what Nadine would do next when she realized her first attempt had failed. The next 2 weeks moved like a whirlwind of documentation, interviews, and sleepless nights. Denise's dining table had been transformed into a command center covered with manila folders, legal pads, and character reference letters. Carmen had essentially moved in to help coordinate everything, while Gloria took over most of the household duties so Denise could focus on school and preparing for the CPS investigation. Dr. Chen had provided detailed medical records spanning Harmony's entire 6 months of life, each entry documenting not just routine care but exceptional attention to her development. The pediatrician had even included photos showing Harmony's progress, sitting up earlier than expected, tracking objects with her eyes, responding to her name. "Look at this," Carmen said, waving a letter from Professor Davis. "She's recommending you for the dean's list again this semester. A woman who can't take care of her child doesn't maintain a 3.8 GPA in nursing school." Ms. Martinez had already interviewed Gloria, Dr. Chin, and Professor Davis. Each meeting had gone better than expected, but Denise couldn't shake the anxiety that kept her awake at night. The knock on the door that Thursday afternoon was different, lighter, more hesitant. Denise looked through the peephole and saw a young woman she didn't recognize. "Can I help you? Are you Denise Thompson?" "My name is Rachel Kim. I'm a reporter with the Atlanta Journal-Constitution." Denise's heart stopped. "I'm not interested in talking to any reporters. Please just give me 2 minutes. I think you'll want to hear what I have to say." Against her better judgment, Denise opened the door. "I've been investigating a pattern of malicious CPS reports in the Atlanta area," Rachel said quickly. "Reports that seem designed to target single mothers, particularly women of color. Your case fits the pattern." "What kind of pattern?" "Anonymous tips that turn out to be false, targeting women who are actually doing well but might be vulnerable because of their circumstances. I think someone is specifically trying to harm you." Denise let her in and Rachel explained what she discovered. 3 other cases in the past year where successful single mothers had been reported to CPS by family members who seemed motivated by jealousy or spite rather than genuine concern. "Have you had any family conflicts recently? Anyone who might be angry about your success?" Denise told her about the dinner, about Nadine's reaction to the Harvard documents. As she spoke, Rachel took careful notes. "Miss Thompson, would you be willing to go on record about this? I think your story could prevent this from happening to other families." "I can't. Not while the investigation is still ongoing." "I understand. But would you consider it afterward?" Before Denise could answer, Carmen burst through the door with Harmony in her arms and excitement written all over her face. "You're not going to believe what just happened," she announced, then stopped when she saw Rachel. "Oh, sorry, I didn't know you had company." "Carmen, this is Rachel Kim from the newspaper. She's investigating." "Actually," Carmen interrupted, grinning widely, "your problems just got a lot smaller." She handed Denise a thick envelope with the Harvard Medical School logo. Dr. Chin called. "This came to her office by mistake, but it's addressed to you." With shaking hands, Denise opened the envelope. Inside was a letter on official Harvard letterhead, signed by Dr. Margaret Chin Williams, the head of their pediatric research division. "Dear Miss Thompson," Denise read aloud, "we are delighted to inform you that Harmony has been accepted into our longitudinal study on cognitive development in children with Down syndrome. As part of this study, Harvard Medical School would like to offer you a full scholarship to complete your nursing degree and continue your education through our graduate program in pediatric nursing." Denise's voice cracked. "The scholarship includes housing assistance, childcare support, and a monthly stipend to ensure that both you and Harmony have everything you need during your studies." Carmen was jumping up and down. Gloria emerged from the kitchen with her mouth open. Even Rachel was smiling. "Furthermore," Denise continued reading, "we would like to offer you a position as a research assistant on our team, working directly with Dr. Chin Williams on groundbreaking studies that could change how the medical community understands and supports children with Down syndrome." "Oh my God," Carmen breathed. "Do you realize what this means?" But Denise was still reading. "We understand you are currently facing some challenges regarding your daughter's care. Please know that Harvard Medical School stands ready to provide character references and expert testimony regarding both your qualifications as a mother and Harmony's excellent development under your care." Denise sank into a chair, the letter still in her hands. "They want us to move to Boston. They want to pay for everything. They want to make me part of their research team." "What are you going to do?" Rachel asked quietly. Before Denise could answer, her phone rang. It was Ms. Martinez. "Miss Thompson, I have good news. Based on my investigation, I'm recommending that this case be closed with no further action required. You're an exemplary mother, and there's absolutely no evidence to support the allegations that were made." "Thank you," Denise whispered, tears streaming down her face. "There is one thing though. I want you to know that we've identified the person who made the report. It was your aunt, Nadine Brooks. She admitted it when we contacted her for follow-up questions." After Denise hung up, the room was quiet except for Harmony's happy babbling as she played with her toys. "So," Carmen said finally, "Harvard Medical School wants to give you a full ride, the CPS case is closed, and your aunt just got exposed as a liar. How are you feeling?" Denise looked around the room at the people who had rallied around her. Carmen, who had never wavered. Gloria, who had found her strength when it mattered. Mrs. Patterson, who had shown up with casseroles and wisdom. Dr. Chin, who had seen Harmony's potential from day one. "I feel like I want to have another family dinner," she said slowly. "What?" Gloria looked shocked. I want to invite Nadine, Robert, and Jasmine over for dinner. I want them to see this letter. I want them to understand exactly who they tried to destroy. Carmen grinned. That's my girl. Rachel closed her notebook. Miss Thompson, I think your story is going to inspire a lot of people. Would you consider that interview now? Denise looked down at Harmony, who was reaching up at her with those beautiful, trusting eyes. You know what? Yes. I think it's time the world heard our story. But first she had a family dinner to plan. Sunday evening found Denise's small apartment transformed. Carmen and Mrs. Patterson had helped her prepare a feast. Gloria's famous fried chicken, macaroni and cheese, collard greens and cornbread. The Harvard letter was framed and sitting prominently on the coffee table, along with the CPS closure letter and several other documents that had arrived throughout the week. Harmony was in her high chair, wearing a little dress that Mrs. Patterson had bought her, gurgling happily and reaching for the colorful toys that now seemed to fill every corner of the apartment. The knock on the door came at exactly 6 o'clock. Denise took a deep breath and opened it to find Nadine, Robert, and Jasmine standing in the hallway looking uncomfortable and confused. Thank you for coming, Denise said simply, stepping aside to let them in. The smell of home-cooked food filled the apartment, and Nadine's eyes immediately went to the documents on the coffee table. What's all this? She asked suspiciously. Dinner, Denise replied. Just like old times. Mama's in the kitchen if you want to say hello. They settled around the small dining table that Carmen had helped expand with card tables to accommodate everyone. Gloria emerged from the kitchen carrying a platter of chicken, her expression neutral but her eyes watchful. Everything looks wonderful, Gloria, Robert said awkwardly. Thank you. They ate in near silence for the first few minutes, the only sounds coming from Harmony's happy babbling in her high chair and the clink of silverware against plates. Finally, Jasmine couldn't stand it anymore. Okay, why did you really invite us here? After what happened last time? Denise set down her fork and looked around the table. I invited you here because you're family, and because I have some news to share. She stood up and walked to the coffee table, picking up the framed Harvard letter. This came this week, she said, holding it up so they could see the letterhead. Nadine's face went pale. What is it? It's a full scholarship offer from Harvard Medical School. For me. Plus a research position, housing assistance, and a monthly stipend. The room went dead silent. They want me to help lead their research team studying cognitive development in children with Down syndrome. And Harmony? Denise looked over at her daughter, who was clapping her hands together. She's going to be one of their primary research subjects. She picked up another document. This is from the National Institute of Mental Health. They're funding a 5-year study on early intervention strategies, and they specifically requested Harmony for their program. Jasmine's mouth was hanging open. Robert had stopped eating entirely. And this, Denise continued, holding up a third paper, is from Child Protective Services, officially closing the investigation that was opened against me last week. Nadine choked on her drink. What investigation? The one you called in, Denise said quietly. They told me it was you, Nadine. The color drained from her aunt's face completely. I was concerned about you. About the baby. You were concerned? Gloria's voice was dangerously low as she emerged from the kitchen. You called the government to try to take my grandbaby away? I thought Denise was in over her head. I thought the baby needed professional care. Professional care? Denise's voice was getting stronger. You mean like the professional care she's been getting from Harvard Medical School? Like the professional care that's gotten her selected for multiple research programs? Like the professional care that's caught the attention of some of the best pediatric specialists in the country? She walked over to Harmony's high chair and picked up her daughter, who immediately snuggled into her shoulder. You called me a burden, Nadine? You said she'd never amount to anything. You said she'd ruin my life. Denise's voice cracked slightly. Do you want to know what she's actually done? She carried Harmony back to the table, sitting down with her daughter in her lap. In the 6 months since she's been born, I've maintained a 3.8 GPA in one of the most challenging nursing programs in the state. I've been accepted to Harvard Medical School with a full scholarship. I've been offered a research position that could help change how doctors understand and treat children with Down syndrome. Harmony reached up and touched her mother's face as if sensing she needed comfort. But more than that, Denise continued, she's taught me what unconditional love really means. She's shown me strength I didn't know I had. She's brought incredible people into our lives. Doctors, researchers, other families who understand what a gift she is. Carmen, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. And she's taught all of us what real courage looks like. Watching Denise fight for her daughter, watching her refuse to give up even when her own family was against her, that's changed all of us. Mrs. Patterson nodded from her seat at the end of the table. That baby has brought more love and purpose to this building than we've seen in years. Every neighbor on this floor asks about her, prays for her, celebrates her milestones. Denise looked directly at Nadine. So I want you to look at her, really look at her, and tell me again that she's worthless. Tell me again that she's a burden. Tell me again that I should give her up. Nadine's eyes filled with tears as she looked at Harmony, who was now reaching toward her with a little smile. I can't, she whispered. Why? Because she's beautiful. Because she's clearly loved. Because... Nadine's voice broke. Because I was wrong. Robert cleared his throat. We were all wrong. We were scared and ignorant and we said terrible things. Yes, you did, Gloria said firmly. You hurt my daughter and my grandbaby with your ignorance and your pride. I know, Nadine said, tears streaming down her face now. I know and I'm sorry. I thought I was protecting you, but I was just afraid that people would judge our family. Judge us for what? Denise asked. For having a child with special needs. You mean for having a child who's going to Harvard? Carmen asked pointedly. The irony hung in the air like a challenge. Jasmine, who had been unusually quiet, finally spoke up. Cousin Denise, can I hold her? Denise hesitated for a moment, then gently transferred Harmony to Jasmine's arms. Her daughter looked up at her cousin with curious eyes, then reached up to touch her face. She's so sweet, Jasmine whispered. Look at her little hands. Look at those eyes. I see her every day, Denise said softly. And every day she amazes me. By the end of the evening, there wasn't a dry eye at the table. Nadine had apologized repeatedly, Robert had asked thoughtful questions about the research programs, and Jasmine had spent an hour playing with Harmony on the floor. As they prepared to leave, Nadine pulled Denise aside. I know I don't deserve forgiveness, she said quietly. I know what I did was unforgivable. But I want you to know that I see now how wrong I was. She's not a burden. You're not making a mistake. You're raising a remarkable little girl, and you're going to change the world doing it. Thank you, Denise said simply. Will you send me pictures? From Harvard? I want to follow her progress. Denise looked at her aunt for a long moment, then nodded. Okay. But Nadine? Yes. If you ever try to hurt my daughter again, you'll never see either of us again. Family or not. I understand. And I promise you that will never happen again. After everyone left, Denise sat in her quiet apartment with Harmony in her lap, surrounded by the evidence of their bright future. Carmen was helping Gloria clean up in the kitchen, and Mrs. Patterson had already gone home with promises to help them pack when it was time to move to Boston. Well, baby girl, Denise whispered into Harmony's soft hair, I think we showed them, didn't we? Harmony gurgled and reached up to pat her mother's cheek, and Denise felt her heart swell with a love so fierce it took her breath away. They had won. Not just the battle with CPS, not just the scholarship to Harvard, but something bigger. They had proven that love and determination could overcome ignorance and cruelty. They had shown that every child, regardless of their challenges, deserved to be fought for. And as Denise looked toward their future, Harvard, research that could help other families, a career built around supporting children like Harmony, she knew that this was just the beginning of their story. 3 weeks later, Denise found herself standing in the lobby of Harvard Medical School, holding Harmony in one arm and a suitcase in the other. The morning sunlight streamed through the massive windows, casting everything in a golden glow that made the moment feel almost surreal. Miss Thompson? A woman in a white coat approached them with a warm smile. I'm Dr. Margaret Chin-Williams. Welcome to Harvard. Harmony immediately reached toward the doctor, who laughed and gently took her little hand. And this must be our star researcher, Dr. Chin-Williams said. Hello, Harmony. We've been looking forward to meeting you. As they toured the facilities, Denise was amazed by what she saw. The pediatric research wing was like nothing she'd ever imagined. State-of-the-art equipment, colorful play areas designed specifically for children with developmental differences, and a team of researchers who spoke about Harmony not as a subject to be studied, but as a teacher who could help them learn. We'll be documenting her development in ways that could revolutionize early intervention strategies, Dr. Chin-Williams explained as they walked through the observation rooms. But more importantly, we'll be learning from her, and from you, about what works best for children like Harmony. Their new apartment was a revelation. The university housing was spacious and bright, with a nursery that overlooked a beautiful courtyard where other faculty families played with their children. Carmen had flown up for the weekend to help them settle in, and she was currently unpacking boxes while providing a running commentary on everything. "Look at this kitchen," she called out. "You could feed an army in here. And the baby's room, did you see the built-in bookshelves? She's going to have the best library ever." That evening, as they sat in their new living room surrounded by half-unpacked boxes, Denise's phone rang. It was Gloria. "How's Boston treating my girls?" "Mama, it's incredible. The people here, the research facility, our apartment, it's all perfect. I'm so proud of you, baby. You fought for that little girl and look where it's taken you. When are you coming to visit?" "Next month. Mrs. Patterson and I are planning a road trip. She wants to see Harvard for herself." After they hung up, Carmen settled down beside Denise on the couch, watching Harmony play with a new toy that one of the research assistants had given her. "How are you feeling, really?" Carmen asked. "Scared," Denise admitted. "Excited, grateful, overwhelmed, all at the same time." "That sounds about right." "Carmen, can I tell you something?" "Always." That night at the family dinner, when they said those horrible things about Harmony, I actually started to doubt myself for a minute. Carmen turned to face her. "What do you mean?" "I mean, for just a second, I wondered if they were right. If I was in over my head. If I was making a mistake. But you didn't give up." "No. And you know why?" "Why?" Denise looked over at Harmony, who was now trying to put a block in her mouth while making happy gurgling sounds. Because she deserved someone who would fight for her, even when it was hard. Especially when it was hard. The next morning, Denise attended her first research team meeting. The conference room was filled with some of the most accomplished pediatric specialists in the country, and they were all there to discuss Harmony. "We're not just studying her," Dr. Chin Williams explained to the group. "We're learning from her. Every interaction, every milestone, every challenge is teaching us something new about the potential of children with Down syndrome." Dr. James Morrison, a neurologist who specialized in cognitive development, pulled up a series of brain scans on the large screen at the front of the room. "These are Harmony's latest imaging results," he said. "Look at the neural pathway development. She's showing patterns that challenge everything we thought we knew about cognitive processing in children with Down syndrome." Another researcher, Dr. Sarah Kim, added, "Her social-emotional responses are remarkable. She's demonstrating attachment and communication skills that suggest we've been drastically underestimating the capabilities of these children." As the meeting went on, Denise felt a mix of pride and protectiveness. These brilliant doctors were talking about her daughter like she was a miracle, which she was, but Denise also wanted to make sure they never forgot that Harmony was a child first, a research subject second. "Dr. Chin Williams," she said during a break in the presentation, "I want to make sure that all of this research benefits Harmony directly, not just future children." "Absolutely," the doctor replied. "In fact, we're designing her intervention protocols specifically around her individual needs and interests. She's not just contributing to the research, she's benefiting from it every day." That afternoon, Denise attended her first graduate seminar in pediatric nursing. The other students were brilliant and driven, and she felt momentarily intimidated until the professor introduced her. "Class, I'd like you to meet Denise Thompson. She's joining us from Atlanta with some of the most impressive practical experience I've ever seen. She's been caring for a daughter with Down syndrome while maintaining academic excellence, and she's now part of our cutting-edge research team." One of her classmates raised her hand. "What made you decide to specialize in pediatric nursing?" Denise thought about all the ways she could answer that question. Her academic interests, her career goals, her passion for healthcare. But in the end, she gave the simplest and most honest response. "My daughter taught me that every child deserves a nurse who sees their potential, not just their diagnosis." The professor smiled. "That's exactly the kind of perspective we need in this field." That evening, as Denise gave Harmony her bath in their beautiful new bathroom, her phone buzzed with text messages from home. Carmen, updating her on their old nursing program. Mrs. Patterson, sending pictures of the flowers she'd planted in the courtyard. Even Jasmine, asking for photos of Harvard and promising to visit soon. But the message that made her smile the most was from Rachel Kim, the reporter. "Your story comes out in tomorrow's paper. I think it's going to change some minds about what's possible when people refuse to give up on each other." As she tucked Harmony into her crib, a beautiful wooden crib that had been a gift from the research department, Denise reflected on how much their lives had changed in just a few months. 6 months ago, she had been a struggling single mother wondering if she was strong enough to raise a child with special needs. Tonight, she was a graduate student at Harvard Medical School, part of a research team that was revolutionizing how the world understood children like her daughter. "Good night, baby girl," she whispered as Harmony drifted off to sleep. "Tomorrow we're going to change the world, one day at a time." And as she sat in their new home, looking out at the lights of Cambridge and thinking about all the families who might be helped by their research, Denise knew that every challenge they'd faced had been worth it. The hardest part was behind them. The best part was just beginning. 2 years later, Denise stood at the podium in the Harvard Medical School auditorium, looking out at an audience of doctors, researchers, and families from around the world. Harmony, now 2.5, sat in the front row with Carmen, clapping her hands and saying, "Mama," every few seconds, much to the delight of the audience. "When my daughter was born," Denise began, her voice strong and clear, "I was told by my own family that she would never amount to anything, that she would be a burden, that I should give her up and move on with my life." She paused, smiling at Harmony, who was now standing on her chair and waving enthusiastically. "Today, I'm here to present research that Harmony has made possible. Research that's changing how we understand cognitive development, early intervention, and the unlimited potential of children with Down syndrome." The presentation that followed was a culmination of 2 years of groundbreaking work. Harmony's development had exceeded every expectation, and her participation in the research program had led to new intervention strategies that were already being implemented in hospitals across the country. Most importantly, Denise continued, clicking to a slide that showed Harmony working with various therapists and researchers. "We've learned that when we presume competence, when we assume that every child has unlimited potential, we create the conditions for that potential to flourish." In the audience, Dr. Chin from Atlanta sat next to Gloria, both of them beaming with pride. Mrs. Patterson had flown up for the presentation, and she kept wiping tears from her eyes as Denise spoke. Even more surprising, Nadine, Robert, and Jasmine were there. Nadine had called a month earlier, asking if they could attend. She'd been following Harmony's progress through the photos and videos Denise sent, and she wanted to see for herself what they'd accomplished. "The little girl you see here today," Denise said, gesturing toward Harmony, who was now trying to climb over the back of her chair, "is walking, talking, problem-solving, and communicating in ways that challenge every assumption about what children with Down syndrome can achieve." She clicked to the final slide, which showed a photo of Harmony reading a book with a group of typically developing children at the Harvard Daycare Center. "But more than that, she's teaching all of us about resilience, about joy, about the kind of love that changes everything it touches." The audience erupted in applause. Harmony, delighted by the attention, stood up on her chair and started clapping too, shouting "Yay! Yay!" at the top of her lungs. After the presentation, there was a reception where families and researchers mingled. Denise found herself surrounded by parents of children with Down syndrome who had traveled from around the world to learn about the program. "My son is 8 months old," one mother said, holding a baby who looked remarkably like Harmony had at that age. "The doctors told us to prepare for the worst, but seeing what Harmony has accomplished." "Every child is different," Denise replied gently. "But every child deserves the chance to surprise you." An older man approached, introducing himself as Dr. Peterson from Copenhagen. "Miss Thompson, we're implementing your early intervention protocols in Denmark. The preliminary results are extraordinary." As the evening wound down, Denise found herself standing with her extended family, the original one and the one she'd built along the way. Carmen was playing with Harmony on the floor, teaching her a new clapping game. Mrs. Patterson was deep in conversation with Dr. Chin Williams about adaptive equipment for children with special needs. Gloria was showing off pictures of Harmony to anyone who would look. And in the corner, Nadine was talking quietly with one of the other mothers, listening intently as the woman shared her own struggles with family acceptance. "Denise?" Nadine approached her hesitantly. "Could I talk to you for a minute?" They stepped out onto a quiet balcony overlooking the Harvard campus. "I've been watching you tonight," Nadine said. "Watching Harmony. Listening to all these families talk about what your research has meant to them. And I keep thinking about that dinner 2 years ago. About the things I said. About how wrong I was." Denise nodded but didn't speak. "I called CPS because I thought I was saving you from a mistake. But I was really just trying to save myself from being embarrassed by having a special child in the family." "I know. That mother in there, the one from Oregon? She told me her family rejected her too when her daughter was born. And I realized that I could have been the aunt who stood by you instead of the one who tried to tear you down." Denise looked out at the campus where she'd spent the last 2 years building a career around supporting families like her own. "You know what the difference is between you and some of the other family members I've met through this program? What? You learned. You changed. You're here. Nadine's eyes filled with tears. I don't deserve your forgiveness. Maybe not. But Harmony deserves to know her aunt. And you deserve the chance to be the person you wish you'd been from the beginning. They went back inside to find Harmony had fallen asleep in Carmen's arms, exhausted from all the excitement. Ready to go home, little researcher? Denise whispered, lifting her daughter gently. As they gathered their things to leave, Dr. Chin Williams approached with a thick envelope. Denise, this came for you today. It's from the National Science Foundation. Denise opened it with one hand while balancing Harmony with the other. Inside was a letter offering her a fully funded doctoral program in developmental psychology, with the option to continue her research with Harmony as her primary focus. They want me to get a PhD? They want you to lead the next phase of this research. To build a program that could help thousands of families around the world. Carmen read over her shoulder. Dr. Denise Thompson. Has a nice ring to it. What do you think, baby girl? Denise asked Harmony, who was stirring in her arms. Ready for Mama to become a doctor? Harmony opened her eyes and smiled that brilliant smile that had started this whole journey. Mama, she said clearly, reaching up to touch Denise's face. I'll take that as a yes. As they left the auditorium, surrounded by family, both biological and chosen, Denise reflected on how much had changed since that devastating dinner 2 years ago. The cruel words had been replaced by acceptance. The isolation had been replaced by community. The doubt had been replaced by purpose. And Harmony? Harmony had become exactly what Denise always knew she could be. A teacher, an inspiration, and living proof that love really could move mountains. What's next for you two? Mrs. Patterson asked as they walked to their cars. Denise looked down at her daughter, who was now fully awake and babbling excitedly about all the people she'd met. Whatever she wants to tackle next, Denise replied. The world better get ready. Because if there was one thing Denise had learned over the past 2 years, it was that when you bet on love, you always win. 5 years had passed since that life-changing family dinner, and Dr. Denise Thompson stood in her office at the Thompson Center for Developmental Excellence, a research and therapy facility that Harvard had built specifically around her groundbreaking work. Through her window, she could see 5-year-old Harmony playing in the adaptive playground with a group of children, her laughter carrying across the courtyard. The morning had started with extraordinary news. Carmen, now Dr. Carmen Rodriguez and Denise's research partner, burst into the office with a tablet in her hands. Denise, you need to see this. The longitudinal study results are in. For 5 years, they had been tracking the development of 200 children with Down syndrome who had received early intervention based on Harmony's research protocols. The results were stunning. Look at these numbers, Carmen said, pulling up charts and graphs. Cognitive development scores are 300% higher than historical averages. Communication milestones are being reached 2 years earlier than previously documented. And the social integration data? Tell me. 96% of these children are successfully included in mainstream educational settings. 96%, Denise. Before Denise could respond, there was a knock on her office door. Her assistant poked her head in. Dr. Thompson? There's a family here from Japan. They flew in specifically to meet you and Harmony. Their daughter was diagnosed with Down syndrome last week, and they've been following your research. An hour later, Denise sat in the family consultation room with Hiroshi and Yuki Tanaka, who had traveled 6,000 miles with their 3-week-old daughter, Sakura. In Japan, Hiroshi explained through an interpreter, families often hide children with disabilities. But we read about your daughter, about what she has accomplished, and we want Sakura to have the same opportunities. Yuki, holding tiny Sakura close, spoke through tears. Your research, it gives us hope. As they talked, Harmony bounded into the room, having finished her playground time. At 5 years old, she was reading at a 2nd grade level, speaking in complete sentences and demonstrating problem-solving skills that continue to amaze her teachers. Hi, she said brightly to the Tanaka family. I'm Harmony. Is that your baby? Yuki looked startled, not by Harmony's Down syndrome features, which were subtle but present, but by her confidence, her clarity, her obvious intelligence. She's beautiful, Harmony continued, gently reaching out to touch Sakura's tiny hand. Babies are the best. I'm going to be a teacher when I grow up so I can help other kids learn. The Tanakas exchanged amazed glances. This was nothing like what they'd been told to expect. Harmony, Denise said, Mr. and Mrs. Tanaka came all the way from Japan to meet us. Japan. Harmony's eyes lit up. That's so far. Did you bring any pictures? I love pictures. For the next hour, Harmony charmed the visiting family with her curiosity, her empathy, and her infectious joy. By the time they left, Yuki was smiling through her tears. "She is remarkable," she said to Denise. "If Sakura becomes even half of what Harmony is, she'll become exactly who she's meant to be," Denise replied. "And that will be more than enough." That afternoon, Denise had lunch with Gloria, who had moved to Boston the previous year to be closer to her granddaughter. "How's the book coming?" Gloria asked as they sat in the center's cafe. Denise's memoir, Presumed Competence, A Mother's Journey to Revolutionize Special Needs Care, was due to be published in 6 months. The advance orders had already broken records for books in the medical/parenting category. "It's scary," Denise admitted, "putting our whole story out there for the world to read." "Scared of what?" "That people will think I'm exploiting Harmony. That I'm making her story about me instead of about her." Gloria reached across the table and touched her daughter's hand. "Baby, everything you've done has been about giving that little girl the best possible life. The fact that it's helped thousands of other families is just a bonus." They were interrupted by a commotion near the cafe entrance. A group of teenagers with Down syndrome had arrived for their weekly social skills group, and they immediately spotted Harmony through the window. "Harmony! Harmony!" they called, pressing their faces against the glass. Harmony looked up from her coloring book and ran to the window, waving enthusiastically. At 5, she was still much younger than these teenagers, but they treated her like their mascot, their proof of possibility. "Those kids," Gloria observed, "they look at her like she's a celebrity. In their world she kind of is. Most of them have never seen a child with Down syndrome who's fully included in mainstream education, who's part of cutting-edge research, who's treated like any other kid, and whose mama is a doctor who's changing the world." That evening, the Thompson family, as Denise, Harmony, and Gloria had come to think of themselves, had dinner with an unexpected guest. Rachel Kim, the reporter who had first written about their story, was now a close family friend and was working on a documentary about the Thompson Center's impact. "I have some news," Rachel announced over Gloria's famous mac and cheese. "The documentary has been accepted to Sundance." "What does that mean?" Harmony asked, looking up from her carefully constructed cheese sculpture. "It means lots of people are going to see our movie about you and your mama," Rachel explained. "Will I be famous?" "You're already famous, little girl," Gloria laughed. "But this might make you extra famous." After dinner, as they tucked Harmony into bed, she asked the question that had been on her mind all day. "Mama, why do people come from so far away to meet us?" Denise sat on the edge of the bed, choosing her words carefully. "Remember how we talked about how you're special? Because I have Down syndrome? Partly. But mostly because you're helping other kids and families feel less scared." "How?" "Well, when other mamas and daddies see how smart and happy and capable you are, they know their children can be smart and happy and capable too." Harmony considered this seriously. "So I'm like a teacher?" "You're exactly like a teacher. The best kind of teacher." "I love being a teacher," Harmony declared, settling into her pillows. "Even when I'm sleeping, I'm teaching people not to be scared." As Denise turned off the light, she reflected on the truth of her daughter's words. Harmony was teaching people not to be scared, scared of disability, scared of difference, scared of the unknown. But Harmony had also taught Denise something even more profound, that love doesn't just conquer fear, it transforms it into purpose. The next morning brought a call that would change everything again. Dr. Chen Williams was on the line with news about a federal grant that could expand their program nationwide. "Denise, they want to fund 50 Thompson centers across the country. They want to train doctors and therapists in your protocols. They want to make sure that every family has access to what you've built here." 50 centers? To start with. The goal is to have one in every state within 10 years. As Denise hung up the phone, she looked out her office window at Harmony, who was already outside for her morning playground time, helping a younger child learn to climb the adaptive monkey bars. 5 years ago, her family had told her that Harmony would never amount to anything. Today, her daughter was literally changing the world. One family, one child, one moment of possibility at a time. And they were just getting started. 10 years after that devastating family dinner, Denise stood on the stage of the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C., holding the Presidential Medal of Freedom, the highest civilian honor in the United States. In the audience, 10-year-old Harmony sat in the front row wearing her best dress, beaming with pride as cameras flashed around them. Dr. Denise Thompson, the president announced, for her groundbreaking research in developmental psychology, her advocacy for children with disabilities, and her revolutionary approach to special needs education that has transformed the lives of millions of families worldwide. The standing ovation seemed to last forever, but all Denise could see was Harmony's face, radiant with joy and love. Later, at the reception, Denise found herself surrounded by an extraordinary group of people. There was Senator Patricia Williams, who had sponsored the Americans with Disabilities Act expansion based on Denise's research. Dr. James Chin Morrison from the World Health Organization, who had implemented Thompson Center protocols in 47 countries. Ann Carmen, now running the Thompson Center's international training program. But the most meaningful moment came when a young woman approached her with a baby in her arms. "Dr. Thompson? My name is Maria Santos. This is my daughter, Elena. She has Down syndrome and she's 3 months old." Denise looked at the beautiful baby, then back at Maria. "How can I help you?" "You already have. Because of your research, Elena was enrolled in early intervention the day she was born. Because of your book, my family knew what was possible. Because of your daughter, I'm not afraid." As Maria walked away, Denise felt a hand on her shoulder. She turned to find Nadine, now one of the Thompson Center's most dedicated volunteers and board members. "Remember when I said she'd never amount to anything?" Nadine asked quietly. "I remember. I was looking at the impact numbers this morning. Your centers have served over 100,000 families. The early intervention protocols have been implemented in every state. The inclusion rate for children with Down syndrome in mainstream schools has tripled." "That's not Harmony's accomplishment alone." "Yes, it is," Nadine interrupted gently. "It all started with one little girl whose mama refused to accept limitations. It all started with you fighting for her when everyone else gave up." The evening's final surprise came when Harmony took the microphone for a brief speech, something she'd insisted on doing despite being only 10 years old. "Hi everyone," she said confidently, her voice clear and strong. "I'm Harmony Thompson, and I want to thank you for coming to my mama's party." Laughter rippled through the audience. "When I was little, some people thought I couldn't learn like other kids. But my mama always knew I could do anything. And you know what? I can." She paused, looking directly at the cameras broadcasting live across the nation. "I can read chapter books. I can do math. I play piano and I'm learning Spanish. I have lots of friends and I help other kids when they're scared. Next year, I'm going to middle school with all the other kids my age." Her voice grew more serious. "But the most important thing I learned is that being different isn't scary. Special. And when people believe in you, you can change the world." The applause was thunderous, but Harmony wasn't finished. "My mama says that love is stronger than fear. She's right. When we love each other, really love each other, we can do anything." As Harmony left the stage, she ran straight to Denise, who swept her into a fierce hug. "How did I get so lucky?" Denise whispered into her daughter's hair. "Because you fought for me," Harmony whispered back. "And I fought for you too." Later that night, in their hotel suite overlooking the Washington Monument, 3 generations of Thompson women sat together going through photos from the day. Gloria, now 62 and the proud director of the Thompson Center's Family Support Program, had documented every moment. "Look at this one," she said, showing them a picture of Harmony with a group of children from around the world, all with Down syndrome, all thriving in ways that had been unimaginable just a decade earlier. "Mama," Harmony said thoughtfully, "do you think that mean dinner was actually a good thing?" "What do you mean, baby?" "Well, if Uncle Robert and Aunt Nadine hadn't been so mean, you might not have gotten so mad. And if you hadn't gotten so mad, you might not have worked so hard to prove them wrong. And if you hadn't worked so hard, maybe other kids wouldn't have gotten help." Denise and Gloria exchanged amazed glances. At 10 years old, Harmony was already understanding complex cause and effect relationships that many adults struggled with. "You might be right," Denise said slowly. "Sometimes the worst moments lead to the best outcomes. Like how storms bring rainbows?" Exactly like that. The next morning brought a phone call that would shape their next chapter. It was Dr. Chin Williams with news about an offer from the United Nations. "Denise, they want you to head up a global initiative on inclusive education. It would mean traveling to countries around the world, training educators, establishing centers, building programs." "That sounds incredible, but..." "They want Harmony to be part of it too. As a youth ambassador. They want her to speak to world leaders, to be the face of what's possible when we presume competence." Denise looked over at Harmony, who was packing her suitcase and singing softly to herself. "What do you think, Harmony? Want to help kids all over the world? Can I learn about different countries? And try different foods? And teach kids in other languages? All of that and more. Then yes, Let's go help everyone. As they prepared to return to Boston, Denise reflected on the incredible journey that had brought them to this point. From a devastating family dinner to the Kennedy Center, from cruel words to a presidential medal, from isolation to global impact. But the most remarkable transformation hadn't been in their external circumstances. It had been in the hearts and minds of everyone who had encountered Harmony, from family members who learned to see past their prejudices, to doctors who revolutionized their understanding of human potential, to world leaders who were now championing inclusive policies. Mama? Harmony asked as they boarded their flight home. Yes, baby? Are you proud of me? Denise stopped walking and knelt down to look her daughter in the eyes. Around them, other passengers moved past, but this moment was theirs alone. Harmony, I have been proud of you since the moment you were born. Not because of what you've accomplished, not because of the research or the awards or the recognition. I'm proud of you because of who you are, kind, curious, determined, loving, and brave. Even when I was just a baby and couldn't do anything special yet? Especially then. Because you were already teaching me about unconditional love. You were already showing me what really matters. As their plane lifted off from Washington, Denise looked down at the city where her daughter had just been honored as a voice for change. But she knew that their most important work was still ahead of them. Because somewhere in the world, there was another family sitting around a dinner table, receiving a devastating diagnosis and wondering if their child would ever have a future worth fighting for. And Harmony would be there to show them that the answer was yes. Not just a future worth fighting for, but a future bright enough to change the world. The plane soared toward home, carrying a mother and daughter whose love had already moved mountains and whose next adventure was just beginning. As Harmony fell asleep against her shoulder, Denise smiled, thinking about the document that had started it all. Those papers from Harvard that had shocked her family into silence. But the real document that mattered was the one being written every day. The story of a little girl who proved that when someone believes in you completely, impossibly, unconditionally, there's nothing you can't achieve. And that story was far from over.